At some point in life, we all face a deep, almost silent restlessness that troubles our hearts and minds. Why, despite our efforts, does it always seem like we can never achieve what we truly desire? Why does complete peace remain just beyond our reach? And why does the feeling of accomplishment and fulfillment seem to slip through our fingers, as if something invisible prevents us from attaining them? In this incessant quest for answers, it is natural for us to look outward. We blame the circumstances, the lack of opportunities, the injustices of the world, the people who have hurt us, the mistakes of the past, the difficulties of the present. Everything seems to conspire against the realization of our dreams. However, as time passes and the soul matures, a disquieting realization begins to emerge, subtle yet relentless. The greatest barrier is not outside of us. It lies within. This inner adversary is a silent and powerful force that inhabits our very being. It is that fragment of us that fears, hesitates, procrastinates, and quietly sabotages our plans. It disguises itself as prudence to seem reasonable, wears the mask of logic to appear rational, and whispers softly and insistently that we are not capable, that we do not deserve, that we are not good enough. This internal enemy hides in the toxic comparisons we make between ourselves and others, in the relentless perfectionism that is never satisfied, in the harsh self-criticism that corrodes our self-esteem, and in the insecurity that paralyzes us in the face of the most important decisions. What makes this adversary so difficult to defeat is that it bears our face. It is intimate, familiar, almost a part of our identity, the internal voice that we so often believe to be our absolute truth. It is an invisible enemy, for unlike external obstacles, it cannot be pointed out or fought with conventional weapons. It requires a deep, courageous, and compassionate gaze to recognize it. Yet, despite this internal battle seeming solitary and dark, there is hope. The journey of overcoming begins with awareness, the ability to see this shadow without fleeing or denying it. It is impossible to change what is not recognized. A silent courage is necessary to look inward, to embrace our fragilities and imperfections, and with compassion and responsibility to initiate a process of self-governance. To conquer oneself does not mean to punish, discipline, or emotionally harm oneself. On the contrary, it is about learning to lead oneself wisely, channeling internal energies to overcome the limitations that bind us. It is a journey of self-knowledge and self-mastery, where true strength arises from the balance between acceptance and change. The first step in this transformation is to accept oneself as one is without masks, without escapes, without cruel judgments. Acceptance is not synonymous with complacency, but rather the honest recognition of the starting point. It is only from this sincerity towards oneself that true transformation can occur. This requires humility to admit one's own weaknesses, but also faith to believe that within these weaknesses lies the seed of our growth. Each time we acknowledge a doubt, insecurity, or fear without fleeing from them, we plant roots for our evolution. The internal battle need not be fought with the martyrdom of self-criticism, but rather with the kindness of patience and the firmness of determination. It is necessary to cultivate the internal dialogue that encourages rather than destroys, that acknowledges effort even in the face of setbacks. The true hero, therefore, is not the one who defeats others or dominates the external world, but the one who manages to conquer themselves. They transform their pain into strength, their fear into courage, their wounds into learning, and their story into a living testimony of overcoming. This is the path to achieving the true peace and fullness we seek, not outside, but within ourselves. Moreover, when we win the internal battle, everything around us also changes. The world ceases to be a field of enemies and becomes a mirror in which we reflect the harmony we have achieved. We become agents of transformation, inspiring others to face their own shadows with the same courage and love. Therefore, the greatest victory we can achieve lies not in grand deeds or external accomplishments, but in mastering one's own soul. For it is in this intimate journey that the key to a full life, rich in meaning and true freedom, resides. Next, it is essential to cultivate self-discipline, this inner strength that is built in the almost invisible details of everyday life. It is not about grand gestures or epic moments, but about the small commitments, silently honored, almost invisible to the world. It is in getting up even when you don't want to, in completing tasks even when you lack motivation, in moving forward even when everything inside you wants to stop, that true overcoming begins. To conquer oneself is a continuous daily work that requires silent dedication. It is more about constancy than flashes of inspiration, more about humble persistence than about grand victories. It is about continuing, even when no one is watching, because in the end, what truly matters is fidelity to the process, not the fleeting glory of the result. However, self-discipline without self-compassion becomes rigidity, and rigidity over time breaks, shatters, and runs out. Therefore, just as vital as being firm is being gentle with oneself, recognizing that failure is part of the journey, that there will be stumbles, and that it is all right. Self-compassion is the fertile soil of resilience. It offers us safe refuge when we err and renewed strength to move forward with more wisdom and lightness. To conquer oneself is not a path free of pain, but the pain of evolution is infinitely lighter and more liberating than the stagnant weight of conformity and the fear of trying. Another crucial step is to transform the mindset. The mind is the true battlefield where our victories and defeats begin. Our thoughts shape our emotions, our actions, and consequently, our destiny. Thus, monitoring what we think is an act of daily courage. Replace "I can't" with "I am still learning." Substitute "I am not good enough" with "I am growing with each step." The way you talk to yourself defines the narrative of your life, and this narrative determines how much you dare to dream, try, persist, and reinvent yourself. Breaking free from limiting beliefs is like shattering invisible chains that bind us. I wasn't born for this. I have no luck. No one supports me. How many times have these phrases echoed in your mind, disguised as unquestionable truths? They are walls disguised as protection, but in reality, they are prisons that prevent us from moving forward. Overcoming them requires concrete action, not just passive reflection. Each step outside your comfort zone is a decisive blow against the wall of fear. Each achievement, no matter how small, is a crack opened in the chains of insecurity. And gradually, you free yourself from the reduced and limited version of yourself to finally become the full and magnificent person you always could be. Finally, align your life with a greater and true purpose. Those who live with purpose do not merely exist, they live with direction, clarity, and passion. Having a purpose is like having an internal compass that keeps your focus steady, even when life's storms try to divert you from your path. These storms do not break you. They only strengthen you and help you grow. Purpose is what reminds you, in the toughest days, of the reason you started, the fuel that keeps your heart ignited. It gives meaning to the ongoing effort, transforms challenges into learning, and makes the process of evolution bearable and even enjoyable. Conquering oneself becomes lighter when there is something greater to fight for, be it your family, your faith, your mission in this world, or the lasting legacy you wish to build. Victory over the internal enemy is not a trophy conquered just once. It is a daily journey, a commitment renewed with each dawn. And the more you progress on this path, the more you realize that the fight is not against yourself, but for yourself, for your best version, for your genuine freedom, for the authenticity that only you can express. It is a process of self-knowledge and constant growth, where each battle won makes room for a fuller and more meaningful life. At the end of this journey, you will understand that there is no greater glory than conquering oneself. Because mastering your mind, governing your emotions, and choosing goodness even in the face of temptations makes you an unbreakable force. When this happens, no one, absolutely no one, can hold you back. You become unshakable from within, and this internal transformation reflects in everything you do, in your relationships, in your achievements, and in your peace. Remember, you were not born to be your own enemy. You were born to be your greatest strength, the source of your own light and courage. And today, right now, can be the first day of your most important victory, the victory that will change your life forever.